Pod. Welcome back to another episode of Say Who Say Pod. He's Danny O'Neil in a sports coat. I've been corrected. It's supposed to just be sport coat. It's not sports coat, plural.
How about sports jacket?
Sports jacket.
I think I say sports jacket and sport coat.
That's fair. It's not really for sports in any event.
No.
You wouldn't want to play.
It.
You would not want to play a sport in that jacket. I'm Christian Caple. The Washington Huskies are 7-3 after a 49-13 thrashing, I would say, of the visiting Purdue Boilermakers. Have you seen a game decided by 36 points that was chippier than that one?
I did not realize that there was going to be that amount of venom and vitriol in this game. And it seemed like it was on both sides. It was very feisty, really from the start.
Yeah, it seemed like maybe Purdue was bringing just a little bit more of it. It was pretty equal, though. I mean, you got Ephesians Prysock doing a throat slash gesture, getting a personal foul. Jordan Washington just took his helmet off. I guess that's not really... It's unsportsmanlike, but it's not unsportsmanlike toward the other team necessarily.
There are games when I start rooting for Washington to rub it in. This was one of those games. I think that happened right about the time. I was pretty angry when the dude, number 9, got the personal foul, or it was unsportsmanlike conduct after the hit on Raiden Vinesbright, because the hit was very clearly, it looked like it caught Raiden Vinesbright at an odd angle, but it was pretty clear he was unconscious when he went to the ground.
And it was toward like Jed Fish.
Oh, was it?
Directly.
Well, that makes me less angry then. As long as
he wasn't taunting Raiden Vinesbright. He was like, he was like walking.
It was on
up Washington's sideline.
Yes.
And like, it almost looked like he was trying to say something to Jed Fish himself.
Yeah. Yeah, that was unfortunate. It does. I saw a tweet from Raiden Vinesbright's mom talking about sort of his recovery, but that's pretty scary. To watch a guy because it was just very clear he was out when he fell. And it was one of those hits that it's the angle of it that it caught him and kind of rattled his head around. I think that was what made it so sudden and so jarring.
Yeah, and similar to Quentin Moore, very positive news ever since that injury happened, that, hey, the spine board, the ambulance, it was all precautionary, and he's in concussion protocol and has a concussion, obviously, but it doesn't sound like it's expected to be any kind of long-term injury.
Do most people understand the protocol that happens, that in most cases, I don't know if they always do it in the NFL anymore, but it used to be when a player is unconscious on the field, there is a protocol that includes the backboard, and it's usually why you see the face mask removed. It's a step that goes through, and that's not to minimize what is happening, but I think it's so graphic looking that I think most people jump to a worst case scenario rather than actually what that speaks to, the fact that he was out when they got to him.
Yeah, and I think that probably for a really long time in football, head injuries were not treated with as much urgency necessarily on the field. If there's any way a guy could get up and walk off the field, it usually happened. Whereas now it's very much, you're erring on the side of caution. You're going to make sure that if anything goes wrong here, it's not because your lack of care in the moment. So
which is the right approach. I've known that in the past where people have really reacted like, oh my God, that looked absolutely awful. And it's like, it's bad, but those are steps that are taken. It might have been that all of those were followed because that is the procedure that happens when someone is unconscious.
They were, I know Jed Fish said it was kind of emotional for a moment. I think there was also some relief involved when he was able to go over and see, hey, he is conscious, he is fully mobile and aware, and he then kind of said about letting everybody know, like, hey, he's okay. It's precautionary. They wound up scoring a touchdown on that drive, and of course, ran away with this one. We'll get into it more, but first, of course, Danny, we got to let people know.
We got to let them know about Chuck Olson.
This episode of Say Who Say Pod is brought to you by our friends at Chuck Olson Kia in Shoreline. Family owned and operated by a family of University of Washington graduates, locally owned and operated since 1964. They have a friendly, low-pressure sales staff. They have a competitively priced selection of vehicles. We hope you'll go check them out. If you do, it is imperative that you ask for Henry Olson. And if you talk to Henry Olson, tell him Say Who Say Pod sent you. I should have alerted you, Danny, to get us a new sponsor alert siren.
Let's see if I got something. Hold on.
We could throw it in post. Yes, we are pleased to let you know this episode of Say Who Say Pod is also brought to you by Husky Mobile. Husky Mobile is partnered directly with the University of Washington to offer affordable phone plans for the Husky community with up to 7% of each bill going back to UW Athletics. Subscribers can also enjoy game day perks like fast pass lanes, seat upgrades, and giveaways, all while on T-Mobile's nationwide 5G network. Use code ONMontlake. That's on Montlake, all one word, ONMONTLAKE at checkout to get your first month free when transferring your number. Check out gohuskymobile.com to make the change today. Thank you to Husky Mobile for sponsoring this podcast.
So your phone bill can help with Husky athletics?
That's what I'm told.
Well, everybody should be changing their phone bills over. We're swimming upstream in the Big Ten. Every little bit helps.
Have you seen the breakdown, by the way, of the now, I guess, paused, on hold, maybe dead in the water, we'll see, Big Ten Enterprises thing?
So all I saw was that there are tiers, which I knew about. And then I saw that Oregon and Washington are at different tiers, and that Oregon was at the higher tier and Washington was on the everybody else tier. And it's not an insignificant difference. It was like $40 million. And then it was really funny because all I could think of is like, so we get the same as Rutgers.
Yeah, that's what a tweet from I think a Detroit media personality who said, an administrator from one of the everybody else schools said the same thing to him. Wait, we're the same as Rutgers. So somebody noted this to me a while back that like that this is what the tiers were going to be. I mean, just the three Big Ten legacy schools, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in the top tier, USC and Oregon alone on the second tier, and Washington with everybody else. And the person who told me this expressed surprise that Washington would accept not so much being lumped with everybody else as getting less money than Oregon.
Why would Washington get less money than Oregon?
Oh, brand value, probably.
That doesn't make sense to me. So
likelihood of success going forward, I don't know.
That was the part of it. And are you pretty sure that is the actual tiers? Because when I first read it, I always wonder, when you're getting sort of anonymous, is that pretty well accepted that those were the actual tiers that were being proposed?
It's exactly what I was told.
Oh my god!
A couple weeks ago.
Well, I think that's, I mean, maybe I'm being misguided to think, but I would think Washington and Oregon would be on the same rung. That certainly surprised me. I'm glad it's not going through if that's the case, because that seems, I have some questions about that.
So that's where I'd like to talk to some people on the record at Washington about this before reaching any broad conclusions. At this point, because it's not happening, or at least not imminently happening, the pension fund that would be involved came out with a statement saying, we want it to be all 18 schools. We think 18 schools would be best. We think 16 is not enough. I think 16 would be enough if the two abstaining were like Rutgers and Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
But when Michigan and USC are like, wait, no, what? No. It does make me wonder why Ohio State's on board.
Yeah, I did wonder about that. And a little bit Oregon, because Oregon's finances seem to be independent of the pressures that most schools feel. But yeah, I definitely, when two of the more better funded, well paid, and established schools, or the sort of, I mean, USC and Michigan are, like, however you want to describe it, are blue blood programs. When they're like, I don't know about this, it does create some questions about why is everybody pushing so hard to get this done. And the reality is that a lot of programs are pretty desperate for some source of income now, and the reason for that is because they haven't prepared for the day that college players are going to be getting paid. They just, that is still something that they have not accounted for and are really uncertain about how they're going to foot the bill.
Speaking of have-nots, Purdue does not have a very good football team.
Yeah, that was tough looking.
With that said, nobody else had beat them by 36 points this season. They were in it at Michigan a couple weeks at Michigan. I think that game was at Michigan. Lost to Michigan 21-16. They lost to Minnesota by a touchdown in a game that they definitely should have won. So they're not good. Anything other than a convincing victory by Washington would have been a disappointment. But you kind of thought that going into the Wisconsin game a little bit. And so I don't know, man. It's too bad Purdue and Wisconsin don't play this year. I think that's a team Wisconsin probably could beat too. But this also was not Purdue's best day.
No, but for Washington, the best thing for Washington was that without Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman, that offense still hummed. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, like Purdue's, they didn't miss a beat. That's not the caliber of competition. Purdue's defense is not close to as good as Wisconsin's defense is, and I'm not saying Wisconsin's a good team either, but they've got a solid defense. But without two of your sort of the triangle offense, two sides of your triangle offense, things still looked really good for Washington's offense.
Yeah, I think it was good for them to get so many young players experience in a Big Ten game. And, you could say, well, it's just Purdue. You can play 15 either true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, or true sophomores on offense. And those type of players, I think, accounted for 7 of their starters. I think 7 of their starters were true sophomores or younger. And go out and handle a conference opponent, you feel pretty good about the future and about your core. And we talked a lot earlier this year about, boy, they miss Carver Willis and John Mills when they're not in there. And man, their starting offensive line is definitely better than it was last year. You can see that they're building it right. You can see the progress, but man, when one of those tackles goes down, it's bad news.
Yep.
That wasn't the case against Purdue because they slid John Mills out to right tackle. And I feel like that position, maybe not that side of the line, but that position is probably where his future lies. And I think early returns were pretty good. They gave him a week to rep there and learn the calls and everything, and thought he played well. So when you've got Carver Willis and John Mills as your tackles, now you've got, you feel better about Pocky Finau stepping into the starting lineup at guard than you probably feel about some of those really young tackles who haven't played yet, having to play snaps at tackle. And other than a couple bad snaps, one of which turned into a pretty ridiculous play on a broken play by Damon Williams, I thought Zach Henning settled down and played fine. And with 2 starters out, they finally found a 5-man offensive line that didn't provide like a huge drop off. If they're playing against Ohio State, if they're playing against Michigan's defense, maybe you would have noticed what they were missing with Landon Hatchett and Drew Azzopardi out, but they were able to move pieces around in a way that that they didn't, when Carver Willis was out, and they had to just kind of live with some of the drop off there.
I was going to ask you about Mills' long-term future. Do you see Mills as their left tackle maybe as soon as next year?
I think so. It makes too much sense, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Azzopardi's got a year left. You got to feel pretty good about the way he's played this year and assume he can take, another step next season. Regardless, like, that's your right tackle, right?
Yep.
You feel pretty good about Pocky Finau.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously, John Mills is kind of the center of gravity for this offensive line going forward, if he isn't already. I mean, he's just really, really good, right? He's
really good, just in spite of the fact he just turned 18.
He's huge. He's got the mentality. He's, I think, mature beyond his years. He's everything you want in an alignment. I think their optimal line next year has him and Finau on the field together. And who do you lose? You lose your right guard.
Mm-hmm.
You lose your left tackle.
Yep.
You have a true freshman named Champ Talea, who played a bunch in this game too, who is massive, who sure looks like the heir apparent at right guard. You like Paki Finau at left guard, and you've got a vacancy at left tackle. So unless you think Cody Green, the 5-star commit in the 2026 class, is just so otherworldly talented, similar to John Mills, that he should start for you on day one at left tackle as a true freshman for a Big Ten team that is probably going to feel like it should compete for a playoff spot. Unless you feel that strongly about Cody Green, I think you move John Mills out to left tackle. You start Finau at left guard. You've got a senior center in Landon Hatchett. You've got Champ Talea taking over right guard as a redshirt freshman, who I have a feeling is going to continue to see like some decent run here this week. Maybe he's out of that redshirt territory now, so they can play him however much they want. I think that was probably part of the calculation of him playing half the snaps against Purdue. Mm-hmm. Sure feels like he's your right guard next year. Hatchett's back at center, as a party's back at right tackle, and there's your offensive line. So you've got Zach Henning again as an option. I think you probably do want to go in the portal and find like some tackle depth. Maybe that's a second-year player who plays that position who you can develop a little bit. Maybe that's a veteran who's just looking for somewhere to help out in their last year, whatever. I don't think it's a starter, but I think you're starting to see the roles for that line next year take shape here.
The other thing going into this game that I wondered was how this team was going to respond to suffering sort of a pretty frank disappointment, because that's the first time under Fish that, not the first time that they've suffered a disappointing loss, but the first time where you're like, that is sort of an inexcusable, you can't lose that game. Man, you had everything in front of you. It's the first time he's suffered a little bit of a stomach punch loss. And I thought they responded pretty passionately. I thought they came out with an edge to the way they played. And maybe that's me talking myself into being okay with some of the chippiness that went on, but I thought they showed some moxie, some spirit, Christian.
I thought they absolutely did.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I totally agree. That is the most encouraging thing. If you're a Husky fan, it's not like you didn't think they could bounce back from Wisconsin and just win any kind of game against Purdue. You knew they were going to win that game. Something's seriously wrong with the program if you lose at home to Purdue. But I do think like the edge that they play, that's the word that really came to mind, especially defensively. Mm-hmm. The edge that they played with was noticeable. And, did that maybe have something to do with where their defensive coordinator worked the last 2 seasons?
It's always so interesting when you get guys that sort of question of how players sort of stick up for their coach or maybe internalize a message from their coach. But there's some overlap there. I think it's pretty clear that there was there was an edge that side of the ball was playing with.
And they talked about, Brian Odom, their linebackers coach. His brother's the head coach at Purdue. It was funny. We were talking to Zadrius Rainey-Sale after the game, and he was like, yeah, we wanted to win it for Coach Walters. He's like, and I was playing for my coach too, because that's his brother. So we really wanted to make sure he got it. And he was like, I didn't even know. We were watching film on Sunday and like looking at Purdue for the first time. And he's like, my brother's the head coach, right?
That's funny.
He was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So there was that. Their special teams coordinator worked there. I followed Ryan Walters a little bit after the game, and as you would expect, when said hi to a bunch of guys, hugs, high fives. There's not like that many people left in the program that he recruited or that even coached. I think they had 82 new players this year, 50 some transfers. So it's a brand new roster, but I'm sure there's still support staff and obviously at least some players. Their starting quarterback for one, who he coached. But yeah, they not a lot of specifics, but it also was made very clear to me in post-game interviews that like the win this one for Coach Walters was definitely a thing that was brought up, and I would imagine brought up by the head coach also. Like, I think that this, to me, it feels like the classic instance where Jed Fish is gonna like have your back, is going against the team that just fired you and like using that internally as like a rallying point. Like, I bet they heard about it a time or two this week.
It's so funny how that works, because when a coach leaves, right, like there can be an edge on the players that stay behind of like, oh, you didn't think we were good enough for you, or like you thought it was better for you. And then when a coach gets fired, there's a certain amount of like, I want to show them what they're missing out on. And yet in that case, it's not like he has any hostility toward the players at all, right? Like,
No.
He's the guys that are there, but there is sort of that sense of, I mean, there's not many jobs that you have in this country where you end up like actually facing the employer that let you go. Like, it's very unusual. It's one of the many unusual things about this particular profession.
I had a commenter who pointed out, quite rationally so, like, what would his beef really be with the players? Like, you didn't even coach most of them, and they were really bad, right? They went 1-11, and as someone else pointed out, like, none of it needs to be like true or rational, and I'm not saying his feelings aren't true or rational, but you're not stopping to think about like, well, but the guys we're lining up across from, I didn't even really coach. It's a different team, like blah, blah, blah. It's whatever you can use, man. Like usually you got to manufacture it. This is a very like real thing, right?
Yeah. Not only that, but like, imagine the alternative. Like, imagine how it would feel to get fired and then come back with the defense at a different, like at a lesser position at a different school, and lose in a surprising fashion to the team that let you go. Like, those are the parts of it. Like, there's every one of these, you don't get to be in a position that Ryan Walters is in without having some confidence and some ego involved and identity. And those are things that are like, you absolutely, A, it serves to your advantage to sort of stoke those feelings, and B, the other part is it's undeniable. Like, it's just natural to feel that way.
Rationally, getting laid off by the Athletic was the best thing that ever happened to me professionally. I mean, if we're going to like put it on paper, would you rather still be there, or would you rather be doing what you're doing? It's not a decision. It's not even close. I mean, it's like, okay, but for a long period of time after, do I still want to shove it on them? Yeah. Like,
do you still?
I mean, I'm probably to the point where I don't think about it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But if I'm firing up a team of journalists to go take on the Athletic, am I going to use it? Yeah, of course.
See, you're probably better and more well balanced than I am, because like, I still haven't let go of all the feelings I have over, and I would say in a different way, like, by moving away from Seattle, like, I made decisions that, like, the decisions that I made put limitations on my ability to stay employed in Seattle media. Like, that was, and my desire to stay employed in Seattle media. And I still, I've still got those feelings. I would, and I like a lot of the people that work at that place, but yeah, I think it's natural.
You conceal it a bit more than your old co-host does.
There's no point in it. I mean, that's the part of it of like, it doesn't really change anything. I do like this idea, though, of you firing up a team of journalists to go take on the Athletic. Are you going to file 15 minutes before deadline? Yeah.
AP style, not Chicago style. What are we
doing?
Know your
difference between there and there. They're the kind of people that don't even understand what those mistakes they make there are.
To be fair, like, Ryan Walters also saw no utility in discussing any of this publicly, right? It was all in-house. Whatever to whatever degree they brought it up or used it as a motivational tool or whatever, it was in-house. Like when he was asked about it in the week leading up to the game, he said, like, I've had my time for reflection. We're just trying to win a Big Ten football game. He was asked about it again on we're recording this on Tuesday, earlier today, just about, hey, you got the win. How's it feel, sort of thing. And he said, feels good to win a Big Ten game. And, he acknowledged that it was cool to be able to like say hi to those guys and kind of remind himself to like, oh yeah, I was here. I did put a lot of myself into this job at this place for 2 years. And, maybe that was something he thought about more after the game. But, yeah, there's certain, it's funny. I was talking to an old colleague, probably like my first media day. So my first media day since I'd gone independent. So I hadn't been doing my own thing for too long. And that person said something to me like, yeah, you're like the least aggrieved person who's been laid off by The Athletic. Like you haven't slammed the company at all. And I was like, well, you should read my group chat messages. That's what we put on social media and what we discuss privately are two different things. But
yeah, it doesn't ever do you any good. But that's the nature. I'm trying to think of the most bitter sort of coach against former teams matchups that I've ever seen. I covered UW when Rick Neuheisel came and then I think he faced Colorado. I think
their first year.
It was his first year, yeah. And they came back. Colorado had a pretty good linebacker. I think it's war number 7. And I remember that being, but it wasn't that spirited or that hostile. I don't remember it being that way. And from Washington's perspective, I don't think they bought into it, or looked at it from that perspective, really. I'm pretty sure Washington won that game. I think they lost to Air Force that year, but beat Colorado in their non-conference.
I think that's right. Several months ago, if you listen to the show, we talked about the passing of our friend Bruce Taylor. And I went to his memorial service, which is at Club Husky, by the way. And, he's a big Husky fan, and they're showing some photos and whatnot. And him and one of his friends dressed as Rick Neuheisel for that game, for the Colorado game. They both had like big blonde wigs going on. That was pretty funny.
God, it is. That's a weird year. They lost at BYU to start that season. It's the 99 season.
Oh, that's right.
I don't remember that game at all. I remember them losing to Air Force and then beating Colorado. But I don't remember that BYU loss at all.
Funny enough, I heard Rick Neuheisel on KJR this morning talking about their loss at UCLA in 99, which cost them the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
And he referred to Marcus Tuiasosopo's injured. He referred to it as his backside, so to speak. Said he'd hurt his backside, so to speak. Badass.
Yeah, it was. That was, God, what a weird year. They start 0-2 and then ended up coming really close to making the Rose Bowl. One loss at UCLA away from making the Rose Bowl. And then they went and played Kansas State in the Holiday Bowl. Kansas State had a badass running back. I think his name was Frank Martin that year. That was really tough.
How's that for an accidental segue, huh? Tricky, disappointing loss at UCLA in the Rose Bowl in November, and now here Washington is, perhaps getting ready to play in the final regular season game ever at the Rose Bowl. Do we believe that?
That's very strange. It's very strange to think about that. This has been a terrible place for Washington to play football in the regular season for a solid 30 years. It's been bad for an extended period of time. I was a student there when they won in 1995. And I think that they didn't beat UCLA in the Rose Bowl, or maybe beat them only once over like the next 20 years.
2018, in a game that was much closer than it should have been.
Yeah.
That was a bad UCLA team. It was Dorian Thompson-Robinson's true freshman year. They really had not done much of anything. Washington was I think probably a double-digit favorite going into that game, and they won by 7 points. And And there's no such thing as a bad win for Washington at the Rose Bowl, evidenced by what you just said. They have one of them in the last 30 years.
That's so crazy.
But I believe I've only played there 10 times in that span. So it's not, it feels like it's been forever, but it's not actually like that many games.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the one win since 1995.
Is there any sense?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 trips since then.
Do you get a sense of Nico's going to play?
I don't know. I do know that Ryan Walters called him like one of the most impressive athletes he's ever seen at the quarterback position. It was just like the quarterback position. God damn it.
Yeah. There's no
at quarterback.
Yeah. He is being presented, Nico is being presented as this cautionary tale. I also look at it that he went to a school that has had a lot of inconsistency in his football team, that has not really invested in its football program the way that other schools have, had an incredibly underwhelming head coach to start the year, but still obviously a pretty talented player. And UCLA, if you throw out the first month, has started playing much more competitive, better football.
Yeah, it's tough because they played Indiana and Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And so like, you know, what kind of barometer is that for whether they're getting better or not? Because they had the 3-game winning streak. Obviously, like the Penn State win got everybody's attention. And then they had a close win against Maryland, which Maryland's not good, but you know, find a way to win any kind of game when you got an interim coaching staff and all those things. Lost at home to Nebraska, but we're competitive. Nebraska's got a backup quarterback. Like they are, wherever the bar is for how good a team needs to be, how good a UCLA team needs to be to challenge Washington at the Rose Bowl, this team is above that bar. Like wherever it, you know, I don't know how low that bar is.
That's
like
funny.
if they were 0-10 and they lost every game by 5 touchdowns, would you feel like this was a gimme? Probably still not.
Probably not. I'd probably still look at it and say that's absolutely the kind of game that Washington goes down and loses. It's so weird. They won at the Rose Bowl. They've beaten Purdue. But you play UCLA at the Rose Bowl and man, it just goes nightmare so quick.
Nico did drills on Tuesday morning, reportedly. So I think it was a concussion that kept him out of the Ohio State game. That changes things if he can't go, for sure. And like he's the best dual threat quarterback they've faced this year. Like we said before the Maryland game, there's no bad way to win this game. Are you to the point where like you're going to give this Washington team credit for beating this UCLA team at UCLA no matter what? If Washington beats them, UCLA's 3-8.
I think you look at it as, what does this give you a chance to do? Like where does this put you on the season? Winning 8 games is, I mean, you've won more games than you had all of last year. Winning 8 games, it puts you in a position where you still could conceivably get to 10 wins. I think that even if you end up losing to Oregon, but you'll feel good at 8-3. They should win this game. And this is an opportunity for them to play better on the road, because that is not something that this team has done particularly well. So I look at it as you're trying to see consistency in this team and the ability to play how they play at home, to play with that kind of offense on the road. This should be a chance for them to do it. They should win it. I'm not going to like bend over backwards to pat them on the back if they do, but yeah, like that's being able to string together performances and play well on the road. That would be a step for this team.
Nico's UCLA's leading rusher by almost 200 yards. 96 carries for 474 yards, which is just shy of 5 yards a carry, and also includes lost sack yardage. So the numbers are actually better than that. With 4 touchdowns, completes about 63% of his passes. I think 12-7 touchdown to interception ratio. So, look, man, in front of a half-empty Rose Bowl at 7:30 p.m. on a Saturday in November, the young man is plenty good enough to to lead UCLA to victory over Washington if the Huskies don't play well.
I am excited. The thing I am most excited about this game is to watch how they deploy Rainey Saleh. Like I think Rainey Saleh can really run. He's got good size, but what I've been impressed, especially his ability to drop into coverage, I think has been good. And I think this is the sort of game where like they're going to have someone that accounts for him, and I think that they're going to try and see can Rainey Saleh do that. It's an elite athlete at quarterback, at the quarterback position, Christian, and you've got a guy that if you're going to use a spy, like he's someone that's as big and perhaps as fast as Nico.
So I'll admit, when Jed Fish revealed kind of the Jacob Manu eligibility situation, and after Buda Alukta went down and kind of talked about like, well, but we got some depth at linebacker, I think like Manu was getting back healthy and was going to have at least some games to play. And he mentioned Rainey Saleh. And he's like, we're going to have Zadrius very soon. He'll be cleared. He'll be able to help us. I'm like, true freshman. He's never played. Like, I've seen his highlights. I have every bit of like belief that the young man is going to be a really good college football player. But like mid-season as a true freshman coming off an ACL, how much is he really going to be able to play? And I think he got like 9 or 10 snaps. Again, I think he made his debut against Rutgers, played about 10 snaps. And I thought, all right, well, that's actually a little, I kind of thought he'd just debut on special teams. And then he's playing more and more. Illinois made a real impact. And then he played 57 snaps, 4th on the team in snaps played, 57 of 67. And was everywhere. Was in on big time short yardage plays. Obviously had the interception where he talked about he maybe could have returned it more, but he just wanted to make sure he secured it. It was important that he catch it and secure it after dropping the one against Illinois.
I love to hear it. The guy, he moves well, man. Like it jumps out. Like the two things that have jumped out to me, how well he moves and that he is not afraid to get up in there against guards. Like you have seen him come forward. It's been really impressive. I think I had very similar expectations to you. As like him getting on the field would be a great accomplishment as a true freshman coming off an ACL. That would have been a really good thing. And now I look at like he is in that group of young defenders that are super exciting. He and Dillard Allen and Robinson, like they've got some really exciting young defensive players.
And I think he's vaulted to the top of the list.
Maybe.
Frankly.
Yeah.
Like we've gone all season, really since like training camp and in some ways back to spring, kind of like forecasting this 2025 class. And you could see like, okay, John Mills and Champ Talea are going to play sooner rather than later, and especially Mills. You can see that Desmond Roebuck and Raiden Vinesbright and Chris Lawson are all pretty good. Roebuck especially emerged. You can see like, okay, they're for sure going to be building the offense around these receivers going forward. There was a lot to like about Baron Naone and Austin Simmons at tight end. You saw Dylan Robinson make the depth chart as a true freshman. Clearly he's not redshirting. He started and played a bunch when Tacario Davis was out. Already kind of got a good look at him. Rylan Dillard Allen, obviously not redshirting. He's fast. He hits hard. He's played starters reps in some games. You can see that he's going to be really good. Devin Hyde, not redshirting. Edge rusher that they're really high on. There's depth in front of him, so he hasn't played as much as some of those other guys, but like you can see, and you kind of forgot about Rainey Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was hurt. He was out. He didn't get to practice in the spring. And you saw him in training camp. He was in there in drills and looked really good, moved well, didn't look like a guy who was hurt, but was months away still from being cleared to actually play football and hit. And it was easy to forget that, like, we're talking about athletic upside in this 25 class. Like, yeah, Dylan Robinson's way up there. Yeah, John Mills is way up there. Rylan Dillard Allen is way up there. I think already Zadrius Rainey Saleh is making a case for being number one that way in that class.
It was interesting when they played Maryland because I remember during the game that they put up a contrasted, the announce team contrasted how many true freshmen were playing in the Big Ten. And I think it was like 2/3 of them were in that game between Maryland and Washington. Number one reason to be excited about Washington going forward is Damon Williams. The number two reason is the number of true freshmen you have playing and playing at a really high level, because you're seeing guys that have really gotten in and contributed. The other thing that I think that does is that it becomes a message to incoming recruits about the ability to play and be featured right away. And I do think that that is part of Jedd Fisch's approach. You want to play your best guys, but in my opinion, the old sort of adage of tie goes to the more experienced and veteran player, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think getting guys on the field and giving them a chance to contribute, I think it becomes a magnet for other young talent as well.
I haven't fact-checked this, and I don't know where it came from, if there was an article that laid it out or something, but both Jedd Fisch and Jimmy Doherty have now said, have cited some metric, and I don't doubt that it's true, but that either they're leading, I forget if it was just the Big Ten, or leading like FBS in snaps played by true freshmen this year. And
well, yeah.
I counted on Saturday, this was in my day after story, so they used 22 guys on offense, which is more than you'd usually use.
Mm-hmm.
Final was 49-13, so makes sense. 9 of them were true freshmen, including walk-on running back Reichen Moon. Got on the field
I like
for
seeing Reichen get out there.
His college debut. Almost scored a touchdown. Didn't quite get in there. 9 true freshmen, and then 6 members of Washington's 2024 class who were either true sophomores or redshirt freshmen. Obviously, that includes Damon Williams, Adam Mohammed, Decker DeGraff, Paki Finau, Jordan Washington, and I think Audric Harris was the other. So, I mean, 15 of the 22 guys are high school recruits from this coaching staff. With the exception, like, I guess Finau and DeGraff were committed.
They
already
committed
there
previously. Yeah, inherited recruits.
So, I think Fisch said, and again, I haven't actually run through this. I think he's right, but 41 of their 49 scholarship players offensively began their college careers at Washington. And like, if they're gonna win and succeed and build the program the way they want to build it, like, that ratio has to stay similar, has to stay the same, right? Like, that's what you want.
Yeah, unless you've got the budget to go out and every year add a quarterback, a running back. Yes, that is absolutely the way you need to succeed, is get guys and develop them.
I know someone else who's going to be at the Rose Bowl on Saturday.
I feel weird thinking that this is going to be the last Rose Bowl game, don't you?
Yeah, it's bull, because it came out of nowhere and it didn't, right? Like, I feel like there'd been talk around it. But then it all of a sudden was just like, oh yeah, they're going to try to move to SoFi, and now the Rose Bowl is suing them. And
here is our conversation, which we have each and every week with the inimitable IP McFarland.
Good morning, guys. I am recording from the Marriott Renaissance in Palm Springs, California. No, I will not still be here by the time this airs, so I'm not doxing myself. And now that I say that, I don't actually know what doxing means. Is it an acronym? Is it a word that I never learned but could very well use in Scrabble? I could look it up instead of wasting people's time, but given that people didn't have to listen to me more than a couple seconds last week, I figured let's ramble a bit. My question this week is a little bit odd. I will be at the game on Saturday in my backyard in what is likely the last UCLA regular season game at the Rose Bowl. I'm wondering, there's no question that there's a lot of UW fans going down, and there's no question that they'll be rooting for UW. But I'm wondering the why behind them rooting for UW. What percentage of fans rooting for UW's success right now is that Jedd gets hired somewhere else and goes? It's a weird thing, like wanting your coach to be hired elsewhere and not liking him for looking elsewhere. Because I think fans, I didn't really, but I think a lot of fans believed that Kalen DeBoer was going to stay, was going to take the contract in front of him. In this case, I think I don't know if people like or dislike Jed because they haven't really allowed themselves to like or dislike them because they've just assumed it was temporary. And they want that temporary thing over. Well, newsflash, whoever comes in is going to be temporary. That's just the state of the sport and the state of Washington's position within it. But what percentage of Washington fans rooting for UW right now is so Jed gets another job? Specifically UCLA or Florida are the two that come up, so this is particularly interesting. But anyway, Christian, I think I'll see you this weekend. Everybody have a good week. Go Dogs.
Seems like Bob Chesney is the hot name at UCLA.
Oh, really?
This second. These 5 minutes that we're in right now.
I might be wrong. I don't think many, if any, UW fans are rooting for Jed to win so he leaves.
I don't know anyone who falls in that category. Maybe Ian talks to different people than I do.
Yeah, and I'm not denying that it's out there, but I'd be interested if there are people who would like him to win his way out of town now. I am very much of the opinion I want Jed Fish back next year. I want him back because that would mean the quarterback's coming back, and I think that this team is set up to make a run next year, and where you can really talk about college football playoff and like, hey, they've got a reasonable shot at getting there. I don't know what would happen after that. If you ask me my ideal scenario, I think it's that Jed comes back pretty much on the same deal he's on now, even though that would make it very likely or more likely that he would leave after next season if it goes as well as I think it could. My number 2 preference would be that UW keep him by signing him to an extension. And then 3 would be that he gets hired elsewhere. I don't think it's practical, and I would think it would be extremely stupid. The position or the idea that he should be let go. Washington shouldn't want a coaching change at this point, but maybe I'm wrong. I feel like I have a pretty realistic view of Fish, but there's some things to really like about the way he builds an offense. And I think Washington's recruiting has been really good. I like a lot of the things that I've seen from it. I just also think that Jed, and this isn't a criticism, I think he's just more realistic about how he looks at the coaching environment, and he doesn't say all of the things that make everybody feel like, oh, he's never going to leave.
So do we believe that like any one result impacts much of this stuff? Because everybody had their eyes on Ole Miss, Florida for that reason, right? Like, oh, this is so awkward, Lane Kiffin, and it's weird. But like, I mean, does Florida drop Lane Kiffin if they beat him in that game? Are they no longer interested in him? But then also you have, if you're Florida fans and you want Lane Kiffin to be your coach, like what outcome in that game are you rooting for?
Oh, that's a funny one.
I just don't think it matters.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it matters either. Yeah, I don't think it does. I will say Florida would potentially be more interested in Jed Fish if Washington upsets Oregon than they might otherwise be. I personally feel that I don't know if he's a hire that they feel they could sell right now. And that might change if they did end up finishing with 10 wins.
Yeah, I think like from Washington's perspective, if you are planning to put an extension in front of your head coach at any point and you wanted to do it, the Wisconsin loss made the optics very difficult. It would have been very difficult to announce that to your fan base that week. But like, just an example of like how week to week things are. Purdue's terrible. And I feel like just beating them convincingly kind of has people content enough again, right? Like, I don't see a whole lot of people talking about the Wisconsin loss. That loss did not get any better.
Yeah.
So like I do think it kind of comes down to Oregon as far as like if you're Florida, if you're in any one of the other jobs that are open and that are going to come open as a result of the jobs that are open and who they hire, and you're looking at Jed Fish, like there is something about having that 10th win that changes things, and they're not going to get that in the regular season.
No.
But then I don't know, like if you're another program like trying to sell yourself on Washington's coach and you get to watch him get Gatorade dumped on his head as the students storm the field because they beat Oregon on November 29th, like it helps.
Yeah. I don't think any Washington fan would want to see him leave because they don't want to see the quarterback go.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who would prefer another reset over let's see what this team looks like in 2026.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm cognizant of the fact it could happen, but I'm not rooting for it. And in my view, if he ends up leaving for the Florida job, I'm not sure how much Washington could have done to keep him. Like that, there's a pull there. And if he leaves for the UCLA job, I just look at it and say he's not happy with what he's getting at Washington, because that's not a job that you would look at as a step up.
Whether it's this cycle or not, I think Washington has to start pooling donor money independent of the university again to pay players. To whether it's Jed Fish, frankly, or someone else.
Yeah.
Fish all but said that. Didn't quite say that. I asked him about NIL at his press conference on Monday and like the presence of collectives nationwide. And he talked about, hey, third party NIL is the next frontier, which is, that's kind of the accepted truth at this point. But are you going to be able to raise 10 million plus a year through corporate sponsorships and brand deals for football players? I kind of think no. So should some amount of that still come from a group that is raising money, pooling money, stockpiling money for the express purpose of purchasing a player's name, image, and likeness rights and paying them for it? It'd be nice to get a breakdown of the deals that have been approved and not approved by the College Sports Commission. Like they put out data on how many, just raw numbers on how many and the dollar amounts, and the average dollar amount of the deal that's been rejected is much higher than the average dollar amount of the deal that's been accepted. So like, surely some of these are being rejected, are being turned away, but I think we know some number of them are not, or maybe they're just not being reported. I don't know. But they're going to have to, like, I feel like Jed Fish, and I don't think he's alone in this. I think he's speaking for the sport more generally, has already kind of moved past the revenue share thing as being like an equalizer, has sort of accepted that it's not going to be, and that now it's about like above cap dollars, real NIL, third party NIL. And however you can get that done is how you need to get it done. But like, I don't know that I see Washington's current setup as being like where it's going to need to be.
But UCLA's isn't either.
No. And there's no reason to think that they're going to get that fired up overnight.
Right.
But like, they're in Los Angeles. There's wealthy people who support that school. Like all it takes is the right people with the right bank accounts, making the decision that they want to be involved at a higher level, and boom, there's the money. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting.
We'll see.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The other thing that I've been watching is the Lane Kiffin thing, and we are recording this on Tuesday, and he was on Pat McAfee's show today to basically deny a report that Ole Miss had given him an ultimatum, and then reading the ESPN.com story after that appearance on McAfee, which McAfee's show is licensed to run on ESPN. It was Ole Miss would still like to have a resolution. And all I could think of is, how in the world is Ole Miss going to force him to decide? Like, how could you possibly? And Lane Kiffin's agent is Jimmy Sexton. And for everybody that wants to rewind 2 years ago and wonder if there was something Washington could have done to get DeBoer to agree to an extension during the season while it was going on, watch what happens at Ole Miss, because there is no chance that Ole Miss is going to be able to get Lane Kiffin to make a decision on what his future is going to be before to pressure him into deciding now.
You think Jed Fish's job status is looming over Washington's season?
Yeah, wait till you see. They're 10. Ole Miss
You'd
is
like to
10
be an
and
Ole Miss
1.
fan right now.
Yeah, and Lane seems to be kind of liking it. He kind of likes it doesn't bother him. He's not annoyed by the questions. He
doesn't hate it.
Makes his smug answers. Oh, it's quite a show.
Did you read Ross Dellinger's profile of him?
Yes.
I had a hard time reading that, thinking this guy's going anywhere. Like, all about how much healthier he is and doesn't eat red meat or bread anymore, and he's in the best shape he's been in, and his son's there, and he can watch him play football, and like Ole Miss wants him badly. Clearly, they're going to pay him a ton of money. They've got all this NIL investment, and I'm like, so why? What's the motivation to leave then? Like, what don't you have that you think you're going to get somewhere else?
Yeah, man, but you look at Lane's coaching career, and the idea that he would ever choose stability would be, and maybe that transformation is real, but the hops that he's made and the way that he's done it, it would actually, like, even after reading that, I'm surprised if he stays.
And I get, at LSU, like, you're at a school where Louisiana kids want to play at LSU, and you're at Florida, like, you've got direct access to all that talent in Florida. And to some degree there's that, you're going to be recruiting kids who are going to be prideful of, staying home and playing for the University of Florida and all those things. I'm not saying like there's no reason to covet those jobs. It just kind of seems like he's at a place where he has the infrastructure to win. So I don't know. Nothing will surprise me. I will say it's kind of refreshing to see him like sort of like be openly torn about it. Whereas, most coaches you just feel like, oh, I got to pretend like this isn't a thing until I leave one day. Whereas I think he at least is, Lane's never going to do things the way everybody else does them anyway. But
no, Lane is one of those coaches who is actually somewhat transparent about how much he enjoys the attention, or at least just sits there and indulges it. Because he certainly does not mind people looking at him and talking to him, and he opens up his world to him.
Oregon and USC atop the Pac-12 power rankings.
Yes, for sure. I think.
How about Lincoln Riley's team like getting a little physical this year?
Yes.
You still not buying it?
No, I'm not. I watched the game. Yeah, I could see that a little bit. I don't believe. We'll see if they're able to play that way against Oregon. I'll be impressed then.
Okay. All right. Utah third.
Yes. Arizona State hanging in there at number 4. Then Washington.
Arizona did beat Cincinnati. At Cincinnati.
Yeah. They don't jump up. They've won 3 in a row. I'm not ready to jump them over the Huskies. I still think the Huskies beat them head to head.
Well, that's fair. And I should say, like, it's a good thing to bring up. Someone kind of got after us for having Washington behind ASU and Utah for a time, saying like, well, don't you think Washington would beat those teams? And I guess for me, this power ranking is less about like finding the 12 team ranking where 1 beats 2 head to head, 2 beats 3 head, and more about like, how did each of these teams handle their schedule?
Yeah, I feel like
we're on the same page there.
Yeah, I think that can be a tiebreaker, but Arizona State doesn't have. Neither Arizona State nor Utah have a loss to a team like Wisconsin. Like that's a bad loss. You have to wear that for a while.
True.
Then below that we go Cal.
Yep, Cal. And then Wazoo.
Yeah,
Wazoo's got to 5 and 5.
You know what? The one thing that you were really right about, maybe the thing you were most right about this year, was after everybody was sounding the alarm, like Washington State is a disaster after the North Texas game, and you're like, I've covered Paul Wolf. This isn't that bad. And you know what? You're right. Washington State isn't that bad.
Yeah, they
got a plucky little defense.
They go to James Madison this week. That's going to be tough, but they come home to get their nightcap against the Beavs and win that one, and they get a bowl game. They might have to invent the bowl game.
Yeah.
For them to go play at 6-6 in no conference, but not no conference, the Pac-12. still a conference. But yeah, just give me credit for that, and please forget that I said that Oregon State was going to have a come up at some point. Let's burn the footage of that.
Yeah. So we go Cal, Washington State, then Stanford, or then Colorado.
Yeah, flip a coin. I mean, I guess Stanford.
I'll say Stanford above Colorado.
And then UCLA. I feel bad for UCLA. Like, what are you going to do? You got to play Indiana and Ohio State in a 3-week span, but, blowouts are blowouts. So, poor Beavs, man.
Yeah, poor Beavs.
We did it. We fit it in. This was a tight Tuesday.
Tight window.
It was. We made it happen. Thanks to everybody listening everywhere. Thanks if you're watching us on YouTube. I actually don't even know if this is going to be up early on YouTube, but it'll be up on YouTube.
Thanks to Chuck Olson Kia. Thank you to the new sponsor, Husky Mobile.
We'll talk to you next week.